I'm going to show you a piece of software that I genuinely enjoy using and that I'm getting great results with. But it's not cheap, and I don't want to make this video feel like an advert. And I've got to be honest with you, I felt a bit lost trying to make an interesting video about this piece of film emulation software called Dehancer. Because I don't know much about film stock or film print, and I'm not a professional colorist. So I decided this video is about the creative things you could do with Dehancer. Let's talk about it. I realized something. I just need to show how it has helped my color grading process and how this tool works. And then you can decide for yourself if it could help you too. And one of you is going to get it for free anyway, because I'm very happy to say that I can give away a license. As a videographer, you have to know something about everything, from operating a camera, exposure and composition, to audio, maybe some graphic design, editing and color grading. Getting an image to a neutral state that looks alright is relatively easy. But when it comes to manipulating an image to achieve a particular look that you have in mind, can be quite a challenge. At least I find it to be a challenge, and I know some of you do too. I once spent days color grading a wedding I shot to get it to look a particular way for the happy couple. And this is where Dehancer comes in. If I would have had it back then, it would have made my life a lot easier. So, Dehancer is a plugin for DaVinci Resolve, Final Cut Pro and Adobe Premiere. And I've also asked if the plugin is going to be available for DaVinci Resolve for iPad, which I'm also going to make a video about. And they said it will be, but they couldn't give me a date yet. I'm going to be using Dehancer in DaVinci Resolve Studio. It essentially is a film emulation plugin and has many great tools to get creative and make your footage look the way you want to. And you don't necessarily have to use the film emulations. There are lots of other interesting tools too. Dehancer has given me a temporary license to try it out and asked if I would make a video about it. So I've given it a go and spent a lot of hours playing around with it over the last month and a half. Now that I think about it, I've probably spent more hours on it than I did color grading that wedding, because I really dove deep into it for the sake of this video and for my own color grading process. But it's actually quite easy and quick to get started with once you've set it up right. Let's take a look. I am using Dehancer Pro, which includes all the tools they offer. They also offer a light version and some versions for a particular tool, like Halation, at least for DaVinci Resolve. Once you've downloaded it, you can install it as a plugin for DaVinci Resolve, and you can find it within the Effects tab on the color page. Once you drop the effect onto a node, you'll see that your image drastically changes. This is because the default settings are quite strong in my opinion. Dehancer, if you're watching this, please dial down the default settings. A way around this is to use power grades within DaVinci Resolve. This is a very useful tool anyway, with any grade. I'll show you how to make a power grade quickly. So I've made a node tree on a random clip. For the purpose of this video, I've made Dehancer's recommended node tree, but you can obviously make your own. Then I drop Dehancer on the last node and I dial down the settings and disable some tools. Then I disable the node so that I can re-enable this Dehancer node when I need it. Grab a still of the clip by right-clicking and grab still and drag it into power grades. Give it a name like Dehancer node tree, for example. If I drop it onto a different clip, I now get this whole node tree that I just made. If I now enable the node with Dehancer, it has all the settings that I previously dialed down, basically turning it into a preset. By the way, once you've made a power grade, it's available in any project. Once you've dropped Dehancer on a node, you start with setting the input source or color space. Dehancer has a really good guide on how to set everything up in your project settings and then what to set your input to in the plugin. I personally always work with Resolve's color managed workflow, so that's how I've set it up. This is where you can make some exposure and white balance adjustments before any film emulation happens. The next dropdown is film. This is where the creative fun part begins and where you can pick your desired film stock. So this would be the actual film that will go into a camera. There's a lot to choose from. Some of my favorites are Kodak Vision 3 250D, Konica Minolta VX400 Super, and the Kodak Ektachrome E100. The push-pull slider basically adjusts the color or contrast depending on the film stock. Note that all the tools within Dehancer can be keyframed, so you can get very creative with it. Also, the clips that I've used with Dehancer in this video were all shot in Vlog 10-bit 422 or 420. And in my opinion, you also need that to be able to push and pull the footage that much with Dehancer. Next down is Film Developer. This has been added recently with an update, and I find it to be very useful for adjusting contrast in particular. But I haven't had the chance to play around with this tool too much. The film compression tool compresses the image, as you can see in the waveform, when I enable the tool. It helps with managing highlights and makes the image look more analog. The guide that comes with Dehancer has very detailed and helpful descriptions of all these tools. I'm obviously not going to read it all to you, but as someone who doesn't know all that much about film stock or print, it's actually really quite interesting and very helpful. The expand tool lets you set the black and white point, so contrast basically, but based on the output color space. In fact, all the tools from choosing the film stock down are all affecting the emulation and not the source file. The print tool lets you pick a film print. This would be what a film was printed on for display through a projector. A very popular one is the Kodak 2383, which I also really like the look of. There's also a LUT version of this film print within DaVinci Resolve, but I find with Dehancer it's so much easier to achieve this Kodak 2383 look. And you have so much more control, because there are actual controls within Dehancer for this print, as opposed to the LUT version, where there basically aren't any controls other than the strength of the LUT, because it's a LUT. Now there are certain film stock and print that sort of belong together, but there's really nothing stopping you from combining stock and print in any possible combination. I mean, you can get creative and just try and see if it looks good on your footage. Here you can also adjust parameters that emulate adjustments that can be made in the printing process. Color density is an interesting one. It's different from a saturation tool. It's more subtle and makes the colors seem deeper and richer rather than more saturated, like when you'd use a regular saturation tool. The analog limiter helps with a nicer roll-off of highlights. Under color head, you can shift hues, similar to Resolve's color wheels, but based on the film emulation and not on the source file. You can do some interesting things here, like making an orange and teal look. Next is film grain. This tool is similar to what you can find within the paid version of Resolve, except for the fact that it feels like with Dehancer the grain looks more embedded in the image, as opposed to the version within Resolve that to me looks a bit more like an overlay. In other words, the grain with Dehancer looks more organic, especially when you set it to positive. Now, I don't use grain all that much, but it is very useful when you need to bring back some texture after applying noise reduction to an image. The Halation tool mimics the effect on celluloid film when a bright light bounces back through, exposing the film again, mostly affecting the red layer of the film, resulting in a reddish-orange glow. But it's a very nice effect if you ask me. It's most visible around bright light sources, creating a halo around that source. But it can affect the whole image, and skin tones in particular. In my experience, it's a tool that needs to be used in a very subtle way. It can become too much very quickly. Although you could use it as a special effect, because you can keyframe it. Like I could do with this light here. Add some sound effects and it almost looks real. Next is Bloom. This tool can definitely give your footage a dreamy and soft look. A bit similar to using a diffusion filter on your lens, but with a lot more control. It has very fine controls. And I find that with Dehancer I can achieve much more pleasing results compared to DaVinci Resolve's built-in glow tool. I'm going to be using this tool a lot, but again, only in a very subtle way. There's a Vignette tool, which is nice to have, but not really anything special. And then two tools that are interesting when you want to make your video feel even more like actual film and like it's being projected. That's Film Breath and Gate Weave. Film Breath emulates the small changes in exposure, contrast and color that can occur during the film development process and some other variables. It looks like that flickering you can see when a film is being displayed. And Gate Weave mimics the swinging from side to side when a film is going through a projector. And you can fine-tune this tool to your liking. These are very cool tools, but I'm not sure how much I will personally use them. The last four options on the list of tools are a false color tool, so you can check exposure, an output slider, which is basically an opacity slider for the whole plugin effect. There's a LUT generator, which is handy. Note that when you export a LUT, it won't include grain, halation, bloom, vignette, film breath, or gate weave. And then lastly, we have a quality setting and a check for profile updates button. While some of you might be able to achieve these looks with Resolve's built-in color grading tools, I certainly can't, and Dehancer really makes it possible for me to create these looks. So what do I think about Dehancer Pro? Well, it saves me a lot of time, which is valuable to me, as I'm sure it could be to you. It's also a lot of fun to play around with and make all kinds of combinations to see how they look. Editing me here, I just wanted to say that honestly, I haven't had this much fun color grading in a while. Dehancer hasn't had any input on this video, and they also didn't ask me to make a positive review. So I'm also going to point out the only two downsides that I found using this plugin. One is that using Dehancer can be quite heavy on my computer system, but I mean every heavy grade would be, with or without the plugin. Second one would be the price. It's $3.99 in dollars, and that's a lot of money. But I do think it's worth it for what it can do, if you need it. But that's of course easy for me to say, because I got it for free. So you have to make up your own mind about whether it's worth it for you. They do also offer some of the tools as separate plugins that cost a lot less. But I think you'd miss out on the things you can achieve by combining all these tools. Speaking of price, let's talk about the giveaway. It's nice that I'm starting to get the perks of having this channel and have companies reach out to me. But I wouldn't get that if it wasn't for you, my subscribers and viewers. I really want this channel to be a place where I not only share what I know and talk about interesting gear, but also a place where you get to share a bit in the perks I'm hoping to get whenever possible. So I contacted Dehancer and asked them if I make a video about it, can I then give away a full license to one of my viewers? So here I am, a video about Dehancer Pro with a full lifetime license for me and for one of you. So how do you enter this giveaway? Well, to avoid scammers that are all over the YouTube comments when it comes to giveaways, I decided to not organize it through the comments, although it would be nice if you would leave a comment on this video and tell me what you think about Dehancer. Instead, to enter the giveaway, send an email to this address with Dehancer in capitals as the subject, and then put your name in the email itself, and if you want, a message to me. You can enter the giveaway until midnight CET on the 5th of April 2023. I'll pick a random winner in 2 weeks from now, so that will be the 6th of April. And if you won the giveaway, you can pick any Dehancer license you want or need. The Halation, Grain or Bloom plugin. But I recommend going for the full plugin, since it's free. If you're not a DaVinci Resolve user, that's fine too. Then you'll get your license for Final Cut Pro or Adobe Premiere Pro. You'll receive an email from me, and I'll give you instructions on how to get your free license. And if you don't win the giveaway, but you do consider getting Dehancer, I have a discount code for you, which is on screen now and in the description. It gives you 10% off and me 10% commission. I'd say that's a win-win situation. I hope this video was helpful. If so, please give it a like and subscribe to the channel, and maybe hit that notification bell, and I hope to see you next time. Thanks for watching. The last 4 options on the list of tools are false color. Yeah. So, what do you think? What do I think? It's me. Hello. Gate weave mimics the swimming. Film doesn't swim well.